Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you for joining me here today. We are going to look at Neo and Nano, two very popular, well-requested currencies that you have asked my subscribers to cover. Thank you very much for doing so, really appreciate that. And also want to just quickly disclaim, I'm not a financial advisor and this is for educational purposes only. Always do your own research. But what we're going to do is look at the technical analysis for both of these coins. Simply put, no extra fluff, just straight to the data. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get to that now. Well, let's check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Neo and Nano. Now, these are two of my favorite coins. I think they're going to go places, and they're also very popular in the social sentiment of things, as well as the fact that my community has asked me multiple times to cover this on a daily basis. So that's the point of this video, is to ensure that you can get more of a well-rounded understanding of how the technical data is looking, quite possibly every single day. So I'm going to try to bring this content to you daily, but we'll go ahead and see how that works, okay? So let's go ahead and first of all, take a look at Neo. Now, Neo is a very interesting one. I've done a review on this recently. I'll link it above just so you can check that out later, but I like how the community is so involved and so passionate about this product, and I can see why. It's really good. But regarding the technicals here, let's go ahead and take a look. Now, I always like to draw a comparison to Bitcoin with everything that I do, because Bitcoin is kind of the end-all be-all. It pretty much controls the price of everything. So first things first, we'll just take a quick glance at Bitcoin. And I have a support and resistance line up there. And just to note quickly, Bitcoin is under the 200-day moving average, and this is a very, very substantial number right here. So this 200-day moving average is essentially going to be a big deal. Once it passes above that, we'll be in really good shape, because if you take a look at just say the 4-hour chart, look at this moving average. It has a slight variance there, but for the most part, it worked as a super strong support over the last few months. Now it's traveling under right now, so that is a bit of a concern, so we want to make sure that it raises above. So on the 4-hour chart, we want to see the price come up to about 57,000. Now that won't happen right away, but you never know. Bitcoin has a tendency of going on bull runs, so that could possibly happen, but just keep in mind, when the price is underneath that, there's going to be a lot of, it's going to be kind of a channel right now where the price is going to be consistently testing the support as well as that as a resistance. But the first major resistance line for Bitcoin is right here, because that was tested 4 solid times, and that is 53,256. So that is the big deal right there. Anyways, so that is Bitcoin. That's kind of what's going on right now. And how that compares to Neo, let's take a look at the 4-hour chart here as well. First of all, to note, on the 17th, this is essentially last Saturday. This is when this major sell-off occurred. But what's beautiful about Neo, the social community is so strong that it ramped up super freaking hard within about 24 hours to hit an all-time high of $134 from 76. So I mean, it almost ramped up a good 50-60%, significant increase. And then of course there was a sell-off, because everything, what goes up must come down, right? And you see a major sell-off here. And what's happening right now is the price sold off a second time, because of course Bitcoin did with the news of the the capital gains, I think it was, that caused things to go crazy. So thankfully it's recovering now, it's starting to stabilize. It's hard to say specifically what will happen next with Bitcoin, but just know that the price here on Neo isn't 100% influenced by Bitcoin. I would say it might be 50-50 in the sense that it will determine the direction it's heading, but it will also not be the determining factor, because Neo has a tendency of, as you can see, going on bull runs regardless of the overall sentiment of the market. So that's a positive thing for Neo. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick look at, while we're on the 4-hour chart, let's go ahead and grab a couple of resistance lines. We can see one right here, right around $76. It's been tested, 4, 5, almost 6 times? So that's a pretty strong support level. And let's go ahead and start with the 1-day chart, because I always like to go from the top down. So 1 day, 4 hour, and then 15-minute. So looking at the one-day chart, you can kind of see normal cryptocurrency reaction here. Strong ramp up followed by a strong sell-off. But of course, just note this support line here, right at $76 approximately, is likely going to be the bottom. Unless Bitcoin has a tendency of doing what it did previously and selling off again, then we might see it come down a little bit lower. But good news is NEO has a strong backing. Everyone is very much involved in it, in its growth. And I do think the social sentiment will cause it to react positively and bounce back up if it comes down below that. But just know that could be a support or resistance line depending on where the price is. And that's the one-day chart. Just to quickly note, RSI is coming down, so you can see that this very strong momentum, the overextended 90 for RSI, is starting to taper off and is down in the 50s. Anything under 70 is honestly a good technical sign to buy as far as going long is concerned. I'm not telling you to do that right now, but I am just saying that is a positive overall sign. On the inverse, however, I don't know if you can see this here, the moving average convergence divergence, the MACD, is essentially intersecting in a downward fashion. That typically implies that there's going to be more movement towards bearish sentiment. It's not always 100%. The one-day chart honestly doesn't tell us a whole heck of a lot. It gives us a big picture, right? But the 4-hour chart honestly is probably the most indicative of true price range, right? So we'll look at the 4-hour chart next, but just know that is essentially what's going on right now on the one day. So moving on to the 4-hour chart, what we're looking at here is essentially a few things, right? So take into account here. First of all, we had the major sell-off here and the recovery. The 50-day moving average is traveling above. However, the 100-day moving average is a strong support line. So we have two strong support lines here, which is very positive. Furthermore, the 200-day moving average hasn't caught up yet, just because the price increased so fast, so rapidly, that we might see this eventually work as a support a few weeks down the road. Something to also note, of course, is the RSI being at approximately 42. This is a very good sign on the 4-hour chart, as well as the fact that the MACD is starting to lose bearish momentum. So you see these little lines here. That essentially tells us, with those lines getting smaller, that we are losing momentum and the momentum is starting to shift towards bullish sentiment. So we got that. And then of course this line hasn't intersected yet, but pay attention when the 4-hour chart and the moving average happens, or the MACD rather, happens to intersect upwards. That's always a very good sign. It's a sweet spot. For the most part, people have a tendency of investing the most during that time. So pay attention to that as well. But what we're seeing here is just a little bit of low volume. People are unsure of Bitcoin at the moment, which is normal. And then of course, also note, see if there's any resistance lines up here. We got this here. Yeah, there's one. So all the way back. So we do have a potential resistance here, right at about $90, 90 and a half. And that was tested, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 8 times. So there's a chance that this could be another resistance level. So what I'd recommend, if you're going to try to take a long position, wait until that line is tested and remains above. Now again, you don't want to use a 4-hour chart. You got to cut down to like a 15-minute chart and ensure that at least 2 solid 15-minute green bars are going to close above that line. But if that happens, then you're going to be in a pretty good position to go ahead and take entry. If you take entry right now, it wouldn't be advised, even though the RSI is in good shape and the MACD is still considered bearish. So I don't recommend taking entry just yet. You want to wait until this resistance line is tested and kind of see where it goes. And we also want to look at the VWAP on the 15-minute chart to see how that reacts. So let's look at that next. So the 15-minute chart on NEO. And by the way, the blue line here is the VWAP. That's the volume weighted average price. This tells us essentially how the price is reacting to the amount of volume in relation to the price. So it's a very helpful indicator. If you don't use it, add it to your charts. It's extremely beneficial. It's literally what made my red days green and overall my portfolio start to grow, because it's just a significant world of difference. Needless to say, looking at a few things here. First of all, RSI is in good shape, right around 50. The MACD is starting to curve up. Again, the legitimacy of a MACD on a 15-minute chart isn't that strong, so don't worry about that as much. The 4-hour MACD is probably the most important. But when it comes to the actual numbers that we're seeing right here, as you can tell, the price is above 3 major support lines. They were resistance prior, but now they're support. So you got the VWAP, it's traveling above. It hasn't closed above the VWAP yet, so don't take entry yet. However, looking at this chart, you can see that the 100-day moving average and the 50-day moving average are traveling now below the price. So it broke above. It's currently above the volume weighted average price. However, these 15-minute green bars haven't closed yet, right? So if you've seen any of my videos or listened to any of my content, you'll know that I'm a firm believer on getting a 30-minute confirmation. So wait for the confirmation. In other words, it's over VWAP right now, yes, but that green bar hasn't closed yet. When it closes, that'll be one 15-minute green bar. You want to have 2 at all times before taking entry. That is just my professional opinion. I feel like that is essentially what works best for me. You use what works best for you. This is not financial advice, but I can tell you that in my tenure, it's extremely beneficial to use the VWAP and to ensure that it remains consistent above that line. And once we get that confirmation that I refer to it as, you can take entry at that point. Now, if you're going to be holding on for dear life or essentially just investing for the long haul, anything over 30 days, then you would probably consider taking a 50% or a full position. If you're only doing a swing trade for 15 to 30 days, you want to take a half or less. I only recommend 25% initially because you never truly know what the price will do, right? So just try to consider that. That would be my thought process there. This would appear to be a good entry point as soon as the second green bar closes above the volume weighted average price. And the reason why I wouldn't go all in, just again to further that, is this 200-day moving average is coming down. It's currently at about $88. Obviously, it'll continue to edge down as the price edges up, but be mindful of how that responds to that line. And furthermore, right? Say for example, the price breaks above the 200-day moving average. You then have the resistance line here of approximately $90.50 to worry about, which is why I always try to instill a sense of small positions. If you take a small position as you edge up, yes, your gains may not be as large, but your losses will be less as well, right? So I'm all about minimizing loss and maximizing gains. And if you only grow 1 to 2% a day, that's fine. We want to have that. But it's the large losses and large gains that can be very tumultuous and very hard to deal with. It's emotionally challenging on the human psyche, right? It's difficult to lose percent over percent instead of just a very small fraction, right? As we all experienced with our Bitcoin recently, jumping down from 63,000 to like low 50s in a matter of 4 to 8 hours? That was difficult. That's a tough pill to swallow because we know we should have bought or sold and trimmed some of the extra earnings that we had, right? Anyways, enough about my high horse here. Just wait for confirmation before you take entry. Take small entries until you pass the next resistance line, and essentially just continue to test those resistance lines and make sure the price is holding true to that line. Okay, so that's my recommendation on NEO. Moving on, let's go ahead and check out Nano. Now, Nano is also a very interesting one too. This one has a very strong following, and as you can kind of see, what happens to Bitcoin doesn't impact this all that much. And that's another reason why I think the social sentiment understanding or the social aspect of a coin it has, in other words, what kind of backing it has, there's a really big amount of people into it, just like we saw with Dogecoin recently, even though that's kind of a, pardon my French, a shitcoin. That essentially was insane, the amount of growth. I mean, it went from 5 cents to almost 40 cents in a matter of like 2 or 3 days. And that was all because of hype, all because of social media. Nano does the same thing. So take a look at this here. So we're on the 15-minute chart. Let's pop out to the 4-hour. And looking back, this was the March 5th. It was trading for $1.12, roughly. for a long time, long period of consolidation, and then it took off. And I looked at this before. The social aspect of this, the backing that it had, was mostly social media right here. This took off right here. Then, of course, followed by consolidation. Then we look at what time frame is this? This is 210. So in February, we had a large spike up again, and it came back down. And look at this again. Boom! Massive increase on the 16th. That is just insane. So what's cool about this, and if you take a look closer, let's find let's go to the 15-minute chart. It'll be a lot easier to see this, because I want to show you what happened when Bitcoin took a crap. In other words, on the 17th, here it is right there. Of course, it came down, right? But look at how sharp it jumped back up no less than 12 hours later, and then up again to test another resistance line. So it's got a strong resistance at about 1425. I have a feeling it's going to test that again eventually soon, but just note that with the price increases and decreases in Bitcoin, it's not quite as substantial as most other coins. Now, you do see this here, of course, this sell-off, and that's because people are scared about Bitcoin going down. So they're trying to get rid of everything and they reinvest it again. But as you can see, this ramp up here, it's done a pretty good job of coming back in just a short amount of time. And I think we have a very large gain already so far compared to other ones. So again, that's kind of just something to understand with Nano. Moving on, let's go to the one-day chart. I like to just start with that and work my way down. So on the one-day chart, you can tell the price has kind of gone up, and then it works itself into a consolidation pattern. Price goes up, consolidation. So there's a strong chance we're going to see that again. We're going to likely have a continued consolidation for a little while, and then once the moving averages are tested, in this case we can see the 100-day moving average was a support, and the 50-day moving average was a support as well, just with a, what is that? It's a $1 variance approximately. So just be mindful of that. See how the price reacts to these resistance lines, or sorry, correction, the support lines, and make sure they don't become resistance lines. I foresee this to continue to go upwards, but we don't know until we get there, and it really depends all in all on the social aspect and of course Bitcoin, because they both kind of work together. Furthermore, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the RSI on the one-day chart. 54. That's a good number. I like that. I wouldn't take entry now though. Obviously we want to look at the 15-minute chart first before we even bother, but based on what I see here so far, even though the RSI is in good shape, the MACD does appear to be losing bullish momentum, and it could turn into essentially a bearish sentiment. Now again, the validity of the one-day chart and the MACD isn't super high, right? But if we look at the 4-hour chart and we see the same thing, then we might want to double check that, right? Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart. So, 4-hour chart, kind of the opposite, which is awesome. So we got a 46 on the 4-hour chart, a 46 RSI. That's healthy. Anything under 70 is a good point of entry on the 4-hour chart, specifically when it comes to going long. If you're shorting, different story altogether. You kind of just flip that upside down. But if you're going long, that is a good number. Another thing that's awesome too, and I don't know if we can see this MACD down here, look at that. It's intersecting in an upward fashion, and these bars are getting smaller. So there's a strong chance we might see a bullish type of run here in the near future based on that alone. So that's usually a very good sign, a very good indication. Now let's go ahead and see if we can find some support and resistance lines. Obviously we got a support down here at about $6.30. And see if there's any resistance. It's been tested at what? It could be a potential resistance. Yeah, here's one. All right, there's a resistance line there too. So what's nice is kind of in this channel right now, And keep in mind too, it likely would have broke this resistance line hadn't Bitcoin recently sold off. But it's recovered so fast that I'm very happy with its progress so far. So I do feel like there's a good long position coming up. Also note, even though it's under the, the 50-day moving average, the 100 and 200 are below. So it only broke the 100 moving average because of what happened with Bitcoin, but it's recovered since and stayed above. That's an extremely good sign. So if you're to take a long position, again, hypothetically, we want to look at the 15-minute chart first. Say you take a long position based on what you see here, what would you want to do? Well, you'd want to make sure the price is above the VWAP, right, for at least 2 15-minute green bars. We'll look at that here soon, but to note also, we want to make sure that if it does raise above the VWAP and hold, you don't take a full-on position, you wait for the next resistance line to be tested, which is, again, right around $9.40. Okay, let's look at the 15. We'll see what that looks like here. All right. So here we are, 15-minute chart. Just looking at strictly the chart itself. What do we see here that's good? Well, the 50-day moving average worked as a a support level right here, right around $7.53. And it's also breaking above the 200-day moving average. That's a very good sign. The only thing that's concerning is the VWAP, but it does look like it's trying to test it right now. So here's a scenario for you. When the price is tested at the VWAP, first of all, the volume weighted average price, VWAP, is an extremely good indicator for short-term day trading and essentially day trading, as well as swing trading. That's what I meant to say. Swing trading and day trading. The reason why it's helpful is because it tells us how the volume is reacting to the price. It's creating an average. So it kind of works as a nice little continuous support and resistance line that's much more reliable than these other three, at least on such a small time frame. The 50, 100, and 200-day moving averages are beneficial on the 4-hour chart, but on the 15, it's much more substantial to use the VWAP. So with the price getting tested here and getting rejected, that tells us it could continue to work as a resistance. So in order to take entry, if you were trying to take an entry right now, I'd highly recommend you wait no less than 30 to 60 minutes until the price comes above and stays above and closes with at least 2 15-minute green bars. Okay, so that's just a consideration. Of course, that's worked very well for me over the years, and I can tell you that it's extremely helpful. So if you don't have the VWAP on your chart, make sure to add it. It's, again, volume weighted average price, and it is literally my best friend. So again, the only recommendation here to take entry is to do that. Furthermore, we want to look at the other things too, because the MACD and RSI are relevant in this scenario. They kind of add a little bit more validity. So looking at this here, say for example the price comes above, closes 1 and 2 15-minute green bars. Then if you look at the RSI and it's not over 70, then it would still be a good consideration for a long position. Furthermore, the MACD as well, as long as it doesn't have bearish momentum, and as you can see it's starting to swing out and level out, then we're in pretty good shape to take entry. So for me, right now, I think all the indicators are appropriate right now to take entry, minus the price being under the VWAP. Once the price goes above the VWAP and stays there for just say, again, 30 to 45 minutes, and preferably closes 2 green bars, then you'd be in a great shape to go ahead and take entry, and that would be my thought process there. Again, always take a look at Bitcoin and make sure we understand how the price action is working over here. But if you look at Bitcoin here on the 15-minute chart, it is performing similarly, but on a lower level, right? So as you can see, Nano is higher in price. So that's where that social sentiment is coming into play here. It's kicking up the price. So again, just something to note, always look at Bitcoin before you take entry, because if Bitcoin doesn't pass this 200-day moving average here, it's going to be trouble. Okay? Because again, the 200-day moving average on Bitcoin is probably the strongest indication we can use, minus any potential resistance levels, that will provide us with a really good understanding of where the price is heading. Okay? And again, same thing here. Price goes above the 200-day moving average, it needs to stay and test above for a while. I would say at least a couple of hours to be safe. And bear in mind, this is the 15-minute chart. We need to look at the 4-hour chart and make sure that the price goes above here, because the 200-day moving average is substantially stronger on the 4-hour chart. So if you're going to use any kind of chart, the 4-hour chart should be your most appropriate one, the most effective one, because all the numbers in the 4-hour chart, MACD, RSI, volume, and moving averages all carry the most weight. They all seem to be the most substantial and essentially most effective to understand. Okay. So that's that. That's what I want to show you. Hopefully you found this beneficial. If you do, please like and subscribe. And obviously let me know too through our Telegram if there's anything else you want to make sure that I cover, right? Because with this new format that I have where I'm covering multiple coins with 2 or 3 technical analysis within one video, it helps me go ahead and make sure that I can cover more things that you want, which is the whole point of this, right? Because I want you to be smart, I want you to be intelligent with your trading, and I want to ensure that you find benefit from what I'm offering you, and that is hopefully going to be in the form of this video. So thank you again for joining me here today. Appreciate you making it all the way, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you in tomorrow's video.